Insanity. Doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results.
Sergeant Be Safe here, and I'm stuck in the office. I'm stuck. You want to know why? I'll be completing reports for stolen vehicles. Yeah, that's right, stolen vehicles. I tell people all the time to lock their doors and put away their valuables. However, this continues to happen. Do you know that about approximately 95% of all auto thefts can be prevented? Here, let's go for a walk and I'll show you a few examples. Example number 1. You go to the store and you leave your car running. Little do you know that Chance Wilder's on the prowl. He sees your car running with the door unlocked, gets in it,
And they're off! At the start.
Oh no!
frustrating. Let's move on to example number 2. You're at home and the car's parked for the day. But you feel safe and secure and believe this could never happen to me. And there's Rob You Blind going from car to car. Just got caught though.
Poopa, be safe.
Hands up. You're coming with me.
Ooh.
People leave their car doors unlocked, and believe it or not, their keys in them. Here's video footage of someone going onto someone's driveway and entering their car, and guess what? Stealing that too. Even if you don't keep your car key, don't keep your spouse's key in the vehicle either. Believe it or not, they park right beside you. So therefore, take the extra step, lock your vehicle, and take your keys inside. So here's a little bit of information for you. If your car is ever stolen, and then I find it and recover it, it's usually not in the same condition that it once was. It could have been involved in a motor vehicle accident because of joyriding, or just have more dents, scratches, and damage on it. You'll get an incident report and a tow bill. Your insurance company may cover the towing and recovering fee, but you could also have to come out of pocket with some extra expenses. So now let's move on to example number 3. Parking lots at major businesses are prime targets. Lock your doors, put valuables away, park in well-lit areas, and definitely do not, I cannot stress it any harder, leave your vehicle running in the parking lot. Because no matter how many times Rob You Blind and Wild Chance go to jail, they will always take advantage of a prime opportunity to take your valuables or steal your vehicle. Don't be an easy target. Hands up, you both are coming with me.
Ooh.
These are just a few examples of how you can protect yourself and be vigilant with your property. And that's your tip of the day to get you on your way.
Subscribe now.
start the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you guys for tuning in for another episode of Black and Blue. I am your host. I am Coach Clay. I'm your motivational speaker, your empowerment coach, your author, and your favorite baker's favorite baker. And those of you in this area know that yesterday and partially today that I have proven that I was your favorite baker's favorite baker when you guys picked up your order, and I hope you guys loved it. But we're going to digress, and we're going to talk about something a little bit more important. I appreciate you guys being here. Right now, we're streaming on 5 different platforms. This is Black and Blue, where we're streaming on 5 different platforms, and there's a live entertainment show, and we show experiences, we show trainings, we show education, we show publications for anyone who's in the law enforcement community or first responder, whether they're rookies, seasoned, or retirees. We're streaming right now on 2 platforms on Facebook, 2 platforms on YouTube, and 1 platform on LinkedIn. So make sure you guys tag, like, and share and get that information out there. Like I said, this is interactive. So if you have a question, make sure you put it in the comment section. I can't see who's on here unless you actually put the question in the comment section, and we'll acknowledge it the best that we can. Okay. And if you're looking for that shout out, make sure you put your name and where you're from in the comment section also, and we'll give you that shout out that you're looking for. In the comment section, you will see our featured guest, who I am excited to have here, OneTimeNation.com. So make sure you guys check that website out once you get the opportunity, and then WorkWithClee.com is also in the comment section too. And that website is for, if you want to be a guest on the show, please reach out there. If you're looking for One Way Publishing, which is the sponsor of this show, make sure you check that out. If you're looking to have a book done, like I've done a few, they're right behind me. Sorry, my big head's blocking it. A couple books, and they have a couple clients that's done a couple books as well. Their motto is, they can turn a mere thought into a book that's bought. So if you ever wanted to write your own book, make sure you reach out to them. If you've also wanted to be a voiceover for Sergeant Be Safe, that's the website that you want to reach out to. All right. Trying to speak kind of quickly because I want to get all these things out of the way because I'm excited. Happy. It's Police Week, everyone. We want to give a special shout out to those that are on the job, those retirees that have made it to the end of the race, and those that didn't make it and are fallen soldiers. We want to give a moment of silence and a shout out to them. Thank you all for your service. Thank you all for tuning in. And with being Police Week, I wanted to highlight my favorite challenge coin. You know, challenge coins are a big thing. Yeah, can you see it? Camera's right there. Flips over. This is it's more like a cinder block, but this is my favorite challenge coin because this is only for a select few that were highlighted during the protest riots of 2020. We actually had to stand on the front line with riot shields and baton, and things got a little hairy at times. Those of you that have been watching the platform know the story. I'm not going to get too much into it, but it is a big deal. So it's a select few that are only allowed to carry that coin, and that's one of my favorites. I see Shayla's on here, said Happy Police Week, and I had the wrong slide up there too, so I'm upset about that. But I digress. One Way Publishing is the sponsor of the show. One Way Publishing has a commercial. Stay tuned. We're going to play that, and we're going to jump right into the show.
Publishing. Have you ever wanted to explain something, tell a story, or leave a piece of you behind? Have you ever wanted to write your own book, but not specifically know how to do it? Well, get ready. One Way Publishing's here. We can turn a mere thought into a book that's bought. People need to learn from you. They need to hear that story. Kids need to read that book. Imagine if you wrote your own children's book and get to read it to your kids. Here at One Way Publishing, we can get your fiction, nonfiction, fantasy, instructional, what have you, done. All at a reasonable price and definitely a reasonable time frame. And if you don't believe me, ask Sergeant Be Safe. He's working on his right now. He's definitely writing the best chapter of his life. Make sure you check out his cartoon skits that air on the podcast Black and Blue.
As Sergeant Be Safe said, that's your tip of the day to get you on your way.
That's right. You guys check that website out and make sure you guys check out One Way Publishing. But before I forget, got to give a shout out to my man, Glenn Topping, who was on the show about 2 weeks ago. He's retired from the Broward County Sheriff's Department there in Florida. He was on the first season of the show Cops. I think he said he was on maybe 4 4 or 5 episodes where he was featured, and we got to see one of his where an old lady did a hit and run. His books have arrived, The Hurt. Make sure you guys check that out. Look a Quarter. The Real Story of the Hurt and the Rise and Fall of Extremists. The Making of a Monster. And Operation 1600. Those are a few of his books. I believe he has 9 of them out. So make sure you guys go back and watch that show and check him out. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the reason why we are here today, the reason why you guys are tuning in is because we have a special guest. He's a family man. He has 29 years of service with the Sheriff Department on the West Coast. He's started from a detention center officer, worked his way up to deputy chief. Like I said, he's worked in the detention center. He's worked in patrol. He's worked traffic. He's worked for a training unit. He's worked the police academy. He's worked motor patrol. He's worked narcotics investigations, and SWAT team. That's enough. That's a tongue twister in itself. And there's more. The list could go on and on. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we're going to welcome to the stage Matthew Thomas.
Hello, this is Sergeant Be Safe, and I want to welcome all you viewers and our very special guest to Black and Blue. So get your questions ready and enjoy the show.
Film Pack.
Subscribe now.
All right, there you have it. It's Sergeant Be Safe out the way here. Bring him up on the banner. One more. There we go. And Matt, are you there?
I'm here, man. How you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. I tried to get that out of the way as fast as possible. I was talking so fast, I almost got tongue-tied. But I am excited to have you here today. I told you I was starstruck. I appreciate you making yourself available to come on the platform. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
My name is Matt Thomas. I'm a cop out in Arizona. I work for the Pinal County Sheriff's Office, and any of the cops listening may be familiar with our sheriff. It's Mark Lamb, and he's a big cowboy hat wearing, all over the place kind of guy. So I'm his second in command. I've been here at the sheriff's office now. I just passed 30 years, so when I sent that to you, it was still 29, and now I just made my 30th. Woo!
Congratulations.
Yeah, for sure. Been here for 30 years, done a bunch of different assignments here, and I was born and raised here in Arizona, born and raised in Phoenix, and now live outside of Phoenix and work for Pinal. And just demographically, we're a pretty diverse county, and we have a population of about 500,000, and we sit right smack dab in between Phoenix and Tucson. So if you go from one to the other, or vice versa, you go right through our county on Interstate 10. That's it. Oh, and I like we talked about earlier, I wrote a book too, which was kind of cool about some of the stuff I did.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's right here. We're going to discuss that. It's a good book. It's a good read. Those of you that are interested in law enforcement in some facet, man, this is the book to get. We're going to talk about it here momentarily. I know you discussed that's your second in command. Could you tell us about your current position and your responsibilities, though?
Yeah, current position is my official title is Chief Deputy, which translates to Under Sheriff for some of the different sheriff's offices around the country. I found that they can call it either or, Chief Deputy or Under Sheriff. So second in command, I'm in charge of all operations, which means all civilian, all sworn, all detention are all my staff. And so I have 2 deputy chiefs under me, one over detention, one over sworn and civilian, and then captains, lieutenants, and sergeants under them. And I think we have a total of about 600. We have about 240 sworn, about 170 in the jail, and then civilian staff and all, we have about 600 total that I'm responsible for. And that's it. We do, I should say, for East Coast people, you're used to a different sheriff than West Coast. West Coast sheriffs, we are the primary law enforcement agency for our county. East Coast, I find a lot of times they're just responsible for paper service and the jails, and state cops come in and do the other stuff. So in Arizona, it's not like that. Like, we are the law enforcement, and the sheriff is the ultimate authority for the county. And so our sworn are out there doing street work just like everybody else.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And thank you for that clarification too. That's another question that goes out there for those that are looking to move out of at least the state that I'm in and look to travel. They want to kind of expand and understand how law enforcement works differently in different areas of the country.
Yep.
Yeah. So are there any mentors or anyone that helped influence you to become the person that you are today, to help you get into the position that you're in today?
Yeah, there's a lot along the way, right? But I would say my base mentors, like throughout my whole life, my mom has been one of the strongest influences in my life. And then probably behind her would have been my grandfather and grandmother on my mom's side.
Okay.
My dad bounced pretty early, so him and my mom weren't getting along too well when I was little. And so I think by the time I was 4, my dad was out of the picture. And so my grandfather really became my father figure. And he was an old World War II vet, born and raised, not born, but raised in Texas. So he was an old Texan, hardcore World War II Texan vet. So you can imagine the kind of father figure he was. He was a little bit tough.
Yeah.
And he molded who I became as a man. And to get to this position, I think it's a combination of, I don't think it's just any one mentor or any couple of mentors. I think it's people that come in and out of my life on a constant basis, right? Because as I was growing up, you have different influences, different people that pour into you, whether it be from the faith, whether it be from your school, sports, or in your family life. So I had a lot of people that helped me out along the way, just helped me deal with the world, helped me mold into who I was. And then as I got into cop work, definitely had some cops, older cops that were mentors to me as I was young in this career, and kind of taught me the way, and definitely helped me get to my position now. And honestly, if I had to thank anybody for my position now, I'd probably be thanking God, number one, because I think I've been blessed throughout my career to have some good assignments, get some good experiences, which let me then promote when I was ready to promote to different levels.
Gotcha. Thank you. And thank you for sharing that. I know a lot of us, we come in here, a lot of us on the platform always want to know how of us got our burning desire to get into law enforcement, especially in this climate. Everyone's like, why law enforcement? Why would you want to do that? No one likes you guys cause nothing but trouble, all blah 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 blah. So when did you officially get your burning desire where the switch went off in your head, you got the call where you were like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life?
So I had a little bit of a different experience, right? So I grew up in a pretty rough area, and I was exposed to law enforcement early on, and not in a positive way. They came into our neighborhood, primarily the gang cops would roll into our neighborhood, and that's the exposure I had to cops. But the gang cops were really cool, man. Like they would come in, and we kind of knew our rules, we knew their rules, and we just dealt with each other. But they were always cool. They would just come up, talk to us, just kind of BS with us, sometimes even just hang out with us. So that was my exposure to law enforcement. And then as I got into my teens, I was always drawn to like military stuff, right? And then having a grandfather that was a World War II vet, really drawn to military or some type of service. And as I got into my late teens in high school and stuff, I felt a definite desire to serve. And so I thought the military was going to be my route. But then as I got out of high school at a very young age, my now wife, who was my then girlfriend, were both 19 years old. And I find myself on the verge of having a child because she was pregnant, and we had to figure it out, right? And so quite honestly, one of the things that was motivating me was that I was about to have a kid. I had to get something stable, something steady, something that would pay the bills, something that would have insurance. And so it was military or this. And at 20 years old, I got my first call to come to work here at Pinal County, and kind of been here since, man. Gotcha.
Thank you for sharing that story. I mean, having a baby at a young age does put a fire under you, and get you to move. I know that I was in the military. I had my oldest son. I had when I was 21. So I mean, when I was in, I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And then when the call came saying, yeah, I'm pregnant and we're gonna move forward, I'm like, yeah, time to make that move. Hurry up, order.
Yep. And my mom told me, when I told my mom at 19 years old, Mom, my girlfriend's pregnant and we're going to have a baby. She said, well, you have, there's two choices, and I'm hoping you're going to make the right one. One is to run away from that situation, and one is to dig your heels in and just take it on. And, I was never a runaway kind of guy. So we went at it, and I'll tell you what, I've been super lucky. Anybody that's in this career a long time knows that a wife that starts a career with you isn't always the wife that finishes a career with you. And I've been blessed to have a wife that is just a warrior, and she's put up with a lot of crap from me over the years and has blessed me by staying with me this long.
And believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, that's, at least from my experience and the things I've seen, that's very rare. So to find out I'm in the rough like that, a gym like that is something special. So I know the two of you are a hot commodity, and things are going. You guys are going to make it all true and true. Happy to hear. So I want to jump right into this book that we've all been talking about here. I mean, you talk about your upbringing. How did your upbringing influence you in law enforcement and actually become beneficial to help you become a go-getter, someone, quote unquote, a cop's cop, a man's man?
So I think it was being comfortable in both chaos and in the world of bad, right? So growing up, growing up in a bad area, I was one of just a couple white guys in my neighborhood, primarily Hispanic neighborhood. Mm-hmm. So growing up in that culture, those were my friends growing up. And I kind of talk about that in the book, how when you grow up in that inner city environment, you don't view it as bad. Like I didn't view my neighborhood as a bad neighborhood. It was just my neighborhood. And I didn't view the people I grew up with as bad dudes. They were just dudes I grew up with, dudes I went to school with. Mm-hmm. Some of them ended up doing bad things as they got older because they got wrapped up in the gangster stuff. Mm-hmm. But you're in and around that world, and I think it's natural to you. So when you get into cop work, it makes it so much easier because I already knew the games, I already knew the street. I wasn't afraid to go into these places. I wasn't afraid because I think a lot of our problem in the U.S. between any policing agency and the community we serve can be culture, right? So if I'm a white cop that has never been exposed to black culture or Hispanic culture, and I've lived in a white culture, that's what makes it uncomfortable, right? So when I go into that culture, I don't know how to navigate that because I've never been exposed to it. And I think that's where we get all twisted up because we don't understand them. And the people in those neighborhoods are like, you don't know our problems, you don't know our life, and therefore, we don't want to deal with you. But when you have exposure to that and you have an understanding of that, you can go into those neighborhoods, and no matter what the culture is, as long as you're willing to say, like, I don't understand it, but I want to know so I can, we can communicate and we can deal together because we have to live together. So I think that's what helped me in my career moving forward is I was comfortable doing all of that. And so I was naturally attracted to gangs and drugs because that's what I grew up around. So it made it very easy to police that kind of stuff because, again, the comfort level was there and the knowledge base was there.
Yeah. And I mean, you knew what to look for, too. You knew what some of the ticks were as well. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, you learn all the games, man. You learn the street games. You learn the hustles. You learn how to talk because I can guarantee you I talked my way out of some stuff as a kid. So you learn how to talk yourself into and out of situations. So your communication skills are very good. And again, just being able to maneuver in that world and knowing when to call BS and knowing, and then even right? When you're dealing with gangsters, knowing not how to disrespect somebody because you don't know their culture, right? And so, like, not going into a Crip neighborhood and calling them something else that would set them off, right? So stuff like that.
It makes sense, yeah. Shayla's got a comment on the floor. I think she should. Oh yeah. I think she should write a book basically being a warrior and having to be a spouse of someone enforcement.
That's no doubt, man. I think especially nowadays, the spouses are looking for a lot more guidance from the spouses who have survived it, right?
Yes.
I think that's a great idea.
And John Kelly, former guest on the show. Thank you for tuning in, John. LOL, not understanding, not wanting to understand can be problematic. Absolutely. Great lessons learned along the way. He too is on the show, Broward County retired sheriff. He's got his own podcast. Make sure you guys check him out as well.
Yep. Yeah, Florida knows what's up, dude. They got some rough areas down there, bro.
I know. Hearing the stories, I mean, I remember hearing his story, reading his book as well. I definitely remember reading yours. Yours is fresh on the brain. I just got done with it. Again, those of you that are tuning in, Interceptors right here. The untold fight against the Mexican cartel. And you see the website scrolling below. Make sure you guys get your copy. But how exciting and how much of an adrenaline rush was it to actually, I mean, to be on the border, to be in the middle of the desert. And I've been to Los Angeles, I've been to Nevada. I've never experienced an actual desert except on a vacation. So I got to do the dirt bikes. I got to do the fun stuff. I got when it was extreme hot, but it was always water there, and I was in t-shirts and swim trunks. I wasn't in full gear. I didn't have to experience rain in the desert. I didn't have to experience the overnight coldness of the desert. I didn't have to experience the heat. I didn't have to worry about helicopters and pinpoint guiding them in from certain distances or what, like so many different things. I'm like, wow, like I'm starstruck just talking about it because I'm an East Coast guy.
Right. Yeah. And the desert's different, man. It's unforgiving out here. And people discount. They always think of the desert as just hot, but they discount how cold it can get too, man. It can go from hot in the day and you're freezing at night. And you know, it's very dry out here. I know we make fun of the dry heat, but it's a thing. Like your body is constantly needing water, and especially if you're kitted out and you got all your stuff on, because when it hits like the 115s, 120s, and you're in full kit, you sweat that water out like nobody's business. And so you constantly are trying to stay hydrated and trying to stay sane and trying to stay in the shade. And then, you know, we're chasing bad guys at the same time in the middle of the desert. And it's exciting, but it's, you know, it's work, man. When you're in it, you're working. And so you got your nose down, you're grinding. And that's kind of what spurred the whole book idea. Is after I got through that period and I moved into an administrative role, just telling people some of the stories that they didn't know about, talking to some of the young cops, and they're like, oh, we heard you guys used to do this. And be like, yeah, we did A, B, and C. They're like, what? We can't believe you did that, right? And you start talking to people, and they're like, man, you should write a book. And, you know, how many times has every cop out there heard that? Man, you should write a book. And I was like, nobody ain't going to read that book. Come on. And so then they're like, no, it's good stuff. And so finally, my boss actually was like, dude, you seriously need to sit down and put this on paper. And so that's what got me going, man. And I started doing it. And then it's a cathartic experience, right? It kind of helps the soul as you go through this stuff. And then it's kind of cool because there's a lot of people that did a lot of good work, and you're able to memorialize that and let the world know, like, this is what we did, man. This is a point in time in history where we did this thing that very few law enforcement officers can say they did.
Right. Exactly. Ceddy P's on here. He said, good evening. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you for tuning in. John Kelly's on here again. How bad is it at the border for those of us who have never been there or must live in the area? Yeah.
So I don't want to disparage the border by saying, you know, it's horrible. But the problem is you have a criminal organization that is in literal control of at least the Mexican side of the border. Right. And so the cartels absolutely control the border. And even into the U.S. in some areas, they control the border. So like if you're talking right now, you know, it's all over the news, all the people that are coming across. And I think the important thing for people to understand is everyone who immigrates here illegally is doing so under the guidance and under the hand of the cartels. So the cartels are absolutely controlling them, and they're a criminal organization. So along with that goes robbings and beatings and rapes and all the bad stuff. And so it's wide open desert out there. Ain't nobody coming to help you. So
Right.
it could be rough, man. It could be real rough. But you've got these border towns that, like El Paso, is always listed as one of the safest cities in America, and it's right across from Juarez, which is extremely violent. So yeah, it's good and bad all at the same time.
Gotcha. Interesting. I know. As you're talking, also, border thing's a big deal, especially now. We all know that it's a big deal. I know a guy who's active, not active. He's a reservist here in the state of Pennsylvania, also a LEO, working law enforcement, and he got activated to go to Texas. I forget exactly where, but his unit.
Del Rio.
I'm sorry.
It's probably Del Rio or somewhere in that area.
Maybe I forget what he said, but he's been activated for about 2 weeks now. I think he's getting ready to come home in maybe about another week or so. But yeah, I mean, he's taken away from LEO to be activated with this unit to go down for border control and assistance.
Yeah, and we've had the same thing here in Arizona, and it's funny because when you get out of area guard that's activated down here, they get into this area and they're like, oh my God. And the funny thing is, a lot of them are like, I didn't think it was this bad. And we're like, dude, you think we're making this up down here? Come on, man.
I know. Listen to your story. I was listening to the podcast I believe you were on a few weeks ago, and also just reading in the book itself. Being in the middle of the desert, as I say, is striking in itself. But and I don't want to give too many pearls and gems away that you give in the book. I'm sorry. I mean, I wanted to talk about it, but I don't want to give everything away too for everyone who hasn't read it. But I mean, in some of the high-speed chases and some of the things that you described, where I wouldn't even think of, you got cartel members that would come here, they would steal vehicles and then drive with carpets on the back of it to cover up their tracks, or mountain those mounted. Covering up their tracks and walking through the desert, for runners, things like that. It's just exhilarating on the process on just getting things over. And so it's the intricate detail that goes into the actual organization itself and being creative and finding ways to counteract it.
Oh, dude. So if the cartels would put their talents to good use, they could be a Fortune 500 company, no doubt, dude, because the logistics behind the coordinated movement of drugs from Mexico into the U.S. is unreal. And some of the stuff you're talking about, some of the chases we were in. So you're talking middle of the night, middle of the desert, out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, you're literally hundreds of miles from the closest civilization. And they've got this whole network out there of just logistics in place, like communication logistics so that they can communicate from one point to another. They've got supply logistics so that their people working out in the middle of nowhere have the food, the water, all the stuff that they need. Wow. And then the transportation cell. I mean, yeah, we could go on and on. They're very, very, some of it's rudimentary, but they're very organized and they are very structured and they do a good job at what they do, at being bad guys.
Right. So how do you believe that you made an impact on counteracting through your career working cartel investigations? Do you believe you've done a tremendous amount of work? Do you believe that a lot of things may have slipped through the cracks, or do you believe that you butting heads, two rams hitting together, and it's come to a stalemate? Do you believe that you've been at least a mitigating force in that factor?
Yeah, and dude, I have no illusions, right? I know that in the overall grand scheme of things, in this world of good versus evil, that our impact was probably minimal as it concerns the cartels. So we would probably affect, on a good day, 10% of their stuff that they're bringing through, and so that's a good day. So they're getting 90% through. So they're definitely affecting us. But our view was, we've got a job to do. We're on the side of righteousness. Yeah. It's not my job really to determine, did I have an effect on them or did I not? All I knew is that I wanted to be a pain in their side, and I wanted to put bad guys in jail. And if I could move my way up the ladder and put bigger bad guys in jail and have a greater effect. And I do feel that we definitely did good work. I feel that we saved lives. I feel that we did what we were supposed to do. And there was never I don't really get discouraged by the justice system, because to me, it's just a big game, man. And you got to know how to play the game, and you got to know your position, and you got to know your spot in life. And you know, I do my part as a cop. My job is to enforce the law. The justice system as a whole, you know, the prosecutors are going to do what they do. Defense is going to do what they do. It's not my problem. My problem is finding bad guys, flushing them out, putting them in jail, and then moving on to the next one. And I think we did a lot of that.
Good. And speaking of the justice system itself, I know you kind of highlighted when you were working with another federal agency that were paramilitary. They were high speed, top notch, the creme de la creme. I remember reading a district attorney or something, or a federal prosecutor or something, was kind of not willing to take the lead on certain cases or whatever until you finally got the ear of a certain one, and it started to streamline. How great of a feeling was that to finally get to the right district prosecutor, I'll say, the right prosecutor, and start getting things done on a different level?
That is probably one of the most rewarding things we've done, because we had a national effect with a local change. And so what you're talking about was our scouts. And so we have these things called scouts. They live on hilltops. And so these are Mexican cartel members that live on mountaintops out in the desert, and they carry their own radio system. They have, you know, communication systems, and they coordinate the movements of the drugs or the people or whatever. And we were catching these guys. We were catching them with guns and all of the radios, the supplies, and everything. And so we kept catching them, and we're telling the U.S. attorneys, like, hey, these are cartel members that are helping facilitate the movement of drugs into our country, and they wouldn't prosecute them. And so we had a local prosecutor that asked me in a meeting. He said, hey, I'm the new prosecutor. What are you frustrated with? And so I told him what I was frustrated. I'm frustrated that we are not prosecuting these guys on mountaintops on U.S. soil that are controlling U.S. ground, coordinating drugs north into our country, and not being prosecuted when we catch them. And so we figured out a way to go after them, and we prosecuted them on a local level in our county first, and ended up embarrassing the U.S. Attorney's Office into doing their job. And then it spread across the whole Southwest. They used our model and started prosecuting these guys all the way across the Southwest border.
Nice. I know that's got to be a good feeling. Hurrah for that. Absolutely. We could go on and on about the book, and I mean, I wanted so many things I want to discuss, so many things I want to talk about. But ladies, I'll let you. If anyone wants to get a copy of the book, what are the multiple platforms they can get a copy of it?
They can get it on anywhere they can find a book, really. So, you know, obviously you pointed them to my website. That's where they can go get a book there. They can go to Amazon. They can go to Apple. They can go to Kindle. Any of that stuff. All the platforms have it. The only thing I haven't done yet, which I am working on, is an audio version, because much like myself, I know there's a lot of audiobook listeners out there, and that's how I read my books. And so I've got to get that piece done. But hard copy books available all day long.
Gotcha. Perfect. Yes, I'm an audiobook guy myself. Night Shift's a beautiful thing for the audiobook. I'm like, come midnight, pop it in. Perfect.
Yeah.
So as we talk on and on about your book more so and fighting the cartels, but you've also worked in patrol. You also work SWAT. You worked undercover. You've worked many different facets of narcotics. Can you share with us any experiences or stories that you would like to share? Something that sticks out to you that you remember?
Man, there's a lot of stories. And I don't know, man, because I've had, so you can tell by my resume that I am ADD, right? I bounce around a lot, and about every second or third year, I would get bored and I'd have to go. I'm going to go to a different position, and I'd go over here and I'd go over there. And part of it was I like new challenges and I like to learn new things. But man, I don't know one story, because I told obviously some of the most exciting stories of my career were the desert things, but undercover some funny stories, because the cool thing about working undercover is people act normal around you because they don't know you're a cop. And so you get to watch people be people in their normal sense. They don't act different because they see the cops around. and people are some funny creatures, man. So just watching people's habits, watching people, you know, how they act, what they do, picking up who's having affairs on who, because you're watching the neighborhood and you're like, oh dang, Mrs. Jones is sliding over to Mr. Smith's house there after Mr. Smith's wife leaves, you know. That I think that was some of the funniest stuff, is just seeing people in their normal world and being able to sit back and just watch that like a TV show, because you know as well as I do, any of the cops out there know that truth is stranger than fiction. Yes. And people do some crazy weird stuff. So yeah, no one story, but just behavior in general of the human being.
Gotcha. And to put a disclaimer out there, I know I've worked with the task force myself undercover as well. So, I mean, it was a lot of fun. It's a different world. There's a lot of strange things. And I got in right after the BlackBerry phone was the main thing. And we just switched over to the i5, I believe, was the latest phone that came out. So I'm there's a few generations behind. And I say all that to say, I know that you've been out of working cartel work, working narcotics, that the stories that are put up and the stories that are presented in the book are allowed to be told to the degree that they are, that things have changed so much with the way things are done now, that the practices that are put out here on the platform aren't the same way that are being administered today. Yeah, and that's another reason that I actually started writing the book, because I knew enough time had passed where I wasn't going to put anybody like the operational security. I wasn't going to jeopardize that for any current operations going on. The technology had advanced so far forward, so I wasn't putting any of that at risk. And so I could tell the story as best as possible without risking any current operations or any current law enforcement officers, because that's the last thing I'd want to do. And so, yeah, it made it nice, because I was kind of removed. And for me personally, I knew that I'm in an administrative role now. And so telling my story and putting myself out there, I don't have to worry about that either, because I'm not going to be working undercover next week. I'm not going to be going out doing deals and all that, where people are going to be like, hey, man, aren't you that cop that wrote that book? Yes, I am. What challenges do you face being in administration now? What are some of the biggest things that you see? Oh, man, just like everybody around the country, recruitment retention is the biggest problem right now for our career. And so we face that too. We do a pretty good job. Our numbers are good, but we still face it like everybody else. I think for us, working for a sheriff, working for an elected official is nice, because his job was given to him by the people, and if they don't like the job he's doing, he won't get elected. Right. And so our sheriff is in his second term, so they obviously like the job he's doing. They reelected him. And along with that, we get to kind of police how we see fit. Him leading the way, and me as his second, kind of implementing that. And we have continued to police how we feel policing should be done, which is we treat everybody with respect until they give us a reason to not respect them. If they disrespect us, then we step up and we take care of that. And we deal with criminals like criminals need to be dealt with, because true criminals, not people that are just messing up, true criminals, true evil of the world, they understand one language and one language only. And so we have to deal with them like that. And they understand a certain way. We have to deal with them that way. And so for us, we've been able to continue policing that way. And we don't micromanage here so much. We let our guys and gals do their job. Like, go out. We've hired you to do a job. Go do your job. Be a good steward of the agency and a good representation of the agency, and go do your thing. But the challenges of recruitment and retention are more because of the national narrative, right? So these youngsters that are getting into our career, they're watching on TV or watching on social media how much we suck, right? And that's according to everybody else, because I don't think we suck. I think we're pretty good. I think so too. So it's fighting that narrative that has become the big challenge. And I think the easiest way to do that is just to not get wrapped up in it as well, because I've heard a lot of administrators
say, oh yeah, this is not the career to get into anymore. And I disagree with that. And I can't say that I always disagreed with that. I fell into that trap myself where I'd be like, yeah, dude, I don't know that I want my kid to get into this. But then when you think about it, it's like, if not us, then who?
Ooh,
right?
Yeah, I say that all the time. Yeah.
Right. And so we have to have those next generations. And so we have to stop discouraging people to get into this work, because it's a noble profession. I don't care what the TV says. This is a noble profession. You are serving a greater good. And if you read the good book, you have a clear understanding that we are on the side of righteousness, man. And so we are designed, just like our military, we are designed to protect our people, our population. And that is a very noble profession. And so I think getting that message out there more is one of our biggest problems, and not falling into the trap of, oh yeah, it sucks, and don't get into this.
Right.
So yeah, that's probably the biggest challenge.
There you go. You tackled one of my questions. I appreciate that. And you watch the media, you watch online, so everything that goes on, you hear everything from the loudest voice in the room, which is what we don't hear is the silent majority. And what you hear from the silent majority is, I love the police department. I love what they do. I appreciate you guys. I couldn't do it, so I appreciate the fact that you guys stepped up and do it, and you guys do a good job doing it. But we don't hear that. We get to hear from the ones that the maybe 10% of the population, and their voice is the loudest, and that's the one that's going off the soundboard. So it discourages a lot of the kid. I told you backstage, a lot of the kids that are in high school or in the military or in college now, looking to find their own way. There you go. There's a little bit of advice, but I want to flip the script a little bit. What advice would you give the senior guys, the veterans that are in 15, 20 years right now, and the way the nation is going, we're kind of at the bottom, coming out of it, more so into the middle, where we're kind of appreciated, but not, if we're not seen or heard from, it's okay. We're not at the low point where everyone seems like they hate us and all that. But these guys, they're looking to get out of it. They're done the quiet quitting. They're just maintaining. What kind of advice would you give them?
Don't be a quitter. That would be my advice. Because if you look back historically, man, police work is ebbs and flows. We've had times in this country where we are absolutely despised and hated by those we are policing. And we've had times where we are absolutely loved, and it comes and it goes. And you have to ignore all that, man. You have to take the good with the bad. And honestly, again, if not us, then who? And you can get discouraged, but you should not get discouraged by that loud narrative, man. That's all noise. It's just noise. And you have to focus on your life, your career, the impact you're making. And I know it's tough sometimes, because you get kind of this expanded view, and what happens to us as cops is we get real cynical, and we have this very myopic view that we think is a worldview, but it's not. And we get convinced, because of the way our profession is designed, that everybody is an a-hole, right? And everybody is bad. And that's because we're looking through this tunnel, and you end up dealing with a small percentage of the population a high percentage of the time. And so when you're dealing with this small percentage 100% of the time, it gives you this skewed view that everybody's like that. And when you break out of that and back up and take a broader look, you realize, like, oh man, that's only these people right here, and the majority of everybody is pretty damn good. And like you said, they appreciate law and order. They appreciate being protected. They don't want to do the jobs themselves. And so for those older guys and gals, just got to stick it out, man. It's easy to quit and say, oh, all is lost. But that's not how our country has survived, and that's not how our country is going to survive. If we have a bunch of quitters, then we're doomed, man.
Yeah. Good advice, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. I hope you guys are taking notes, taking these pearls and gems down. Kind of change gears a little bit, kind of ask ongoing situation with police work. Us as LEOs, first responders, law enforcement, one thing that we do not like is we are creatures of habit. We do not like change. And I know I'm, for one, I remember back in the day when we used to actually do accident reports on the carbon paper. And so I remember, I got so good at it, I memorized each of the block. I don't remember how many blocks. I had unit 1, unit 2. I knew what questions to ask before I even started out. Like, yeah, I got the license, registration, insurance. What's your phone number? Is this the correct address? Got all that information before I had to go back and reapproach all that. Got bam. Was getting good at it. I remember I was getting done in like 5 minutes or so, coming back, man, here's yours, be on your way. Then we switched over to digital. And believe it or not, you would think that that switch would be easier and we would all love it because it made so much things faster. But it was backwards. It confused us. And I was like, I don't want to switch. As long as I have these carbon papers, and I had a stack of them. I'm like, I'm using the carbon papers until I run out. And it wasn't until the lieutenant at the time made me shred all my carbon paper to force me into the digital way of doing it. So I know what it's like to change and fight against it and not want to do it. But now looking at it, it is so much easier.
Yeah. And the running joke is always, if you've been in this business for a while, the two things that cops hate are the way things are and change. And so we're kind of stuck, right? If those are the two things we hate, we can't go anywhere. And I can tell you as an administrator now, obviously I'm in a position where I affect change. Like I'm the one that says we're changing this or we're changing that. And I think as law enforcement professionals and for the administrators out there listening, I think the biggest thing I've learned in this position as it relates to change is really all people want is clear communication and some buy-in, right? And so what I've found is as long as we communicate as much as possible on where we're going, why we're going there, how we're going to get there, and we involve them in them being everybody, line level on up. Because I'll tell you what, I've had some 2-month cops that are not even off FTO have some of the most brilliant ideas you've ever heard, man. And so we have to not discount people because, that's the way it used to be, man. If you're a young guy, you just shut your mouth. Even if you saw like, hey, the building's burning, but I ain't going to say anything because I'm just a young guy. So I'm not going to tell anybody the building's burning. You just let it burn. And I think now with this new generation of cops, they're willing to say like, hey, I don't think that's right. And they'll give you some brilliant ideas. And so to your point also, I think right now in policing, we have probably about 4 generations of cops. And so we have those of us who have been in it for a while who started with writing reports and having to then move to writing a report and entering it into a Microsoft Word document and then transferring that Word document over to something else. We've moved through all these evolutions.
Yeah.
And as we've moved forward, we've been part of that change each time. And now we've reached an age where change happens so fast because those of us who've been in it for a while know too that major change would only come every so often. And now you could have major shifts in 2 or 3 months. You're moving from this to that, a completely different way of doing things because of the technology. Mm-hmm. But what I do know is these young cops are on it, man, with that stuff. And I think somebody asked me this question, and the question being, what here's what your generation of cops was known for, or some of the cool stuff they did. So with all the new technology and stuff, what are the new cops going to be known for? And that's going to be it, man. Wow. They are going to be known for mastering the technology and still catching criminals that are much better criminals now because of the technology. So the criminals can hide quicker, they can cover up stuff quicker, and these new generation of cops are going to be that much better because they're going to be able to catch those guys still and put them away.
Yeah. I'll give an example of that. Within the past maybe 2 years, maybe a year or two ago, when the newer cops came, like, we got to go serve this PFA. We're taking them into custody, protection from abuse. For the restraining orders, it has different names in different areas. So we had to go do one of those. And I'm like, well, all right, well, we'll see. Last residents will look up reports the old school way. I'm doing all this. I'm like, I have a dummy Snapchat page. I can see if they're on Snapchat, and then I can see the general location of where they're at. Like, what are you talking about? That was my first awareness of that. And so I'm doing the old school, the old way, getting it done, thinking I'm teaching them something. They pulled up a dummy page, like, yeah, it looks like if his last address was on Green Street, it's showing the radius of Green Street, like right at that area. So I think we should go straight to that house. Like, wow.
Yep. No, and I've had the same thing happen where you're like, okay, as a lieutenant, before I took this position, you're briefing up and you're like, okay, we got this suspect. We're gonna, we think these are his associates. And as you're talking and kind of briefing your group, one of those little dudes with the phone in the back is like, yeah, he lives here now. Like, what? Well, how do you know that, dude? We haven't done any of this yet. And they're like, just like you, I looked up this and social media that, and boom, 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 and here he is. We got him locked down, and we can go pick him up. I'm like, holy crap, man! It's crazy.
Yep. Exactly. I remember, like you were saying, being a newer cop, I coming back. I came in game in 06, and coming in, I know you were seen, but not heard. You weren't expected to have. You were expected to have minimum conversation. You got all the grunt work. You did all the leg work, which is fine, because that's how you earned your way. I made sure that if there was a bar fight, no matter what you were doing, they made sure you were going because they had to see how you acted in stressful physical atmosphere. And now, like you said, those days are few and far between. Now that the newer guys are coming in, like you said, and they're very vocal. And it used to catch me off guard around the 2015 era, where the new guys would come in right out of college and like blah, 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 blah. I'm like, oh, you haven't even been here 6 months and you're talking. But now it's the mainstream. And as much as they're learning from us, we're learning from them too.
Yep. And I think the that middle generation of cops are who struggle with it most. And well, I'd say that the older end, like my end of the spectrum, because we struggle with it too. The ones that don't have enough humility to realize they should be listening to these guys. But I think what we have to all understand, any of us who are tenured in this job, is those dudes are the next us. So we better be investing in them if they, because you always want to leave some type of legacy behind, and your legacy should be investing in the leadership of anybody who you work with, no matter what tenure they have. Because at some point, I want to be able to come back after I retire, take a look at this department, and maybe, talk to somebody who was deputy so-and-so, and now they're the chief deputy in my old desk, and talk to them and see, like, man, I had something to do with that. Like, that's still a piece of my legacy living on.
Yeah, absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, stay tuned. We're going to pause for the call. Sergeant Be Safe has a few words, and we're going to jump right back into it. Thank you.
Hey, how you guys doing? This is Sergeant Be Safe, and I'm back in the office again. I know the brand new year has already started, and we're well into 2023. And guess what? It will soon be getting warm outside, and you'll be wanting to do outdoor activities. Be mindful of your surroundings and the company you keep. And if you have to go out by yourself, always keep a vigilant eye. I want you guys to remain safe. Here, I'll give you a scenario. This good citizen decided to take advantage of the warm weather and went for a jog.
Look at this guy not paying attention, looking like a straight victim.
And here comes treacherous Tony on the prowl. Fortunately, I have with me Captain Chaos and his K9 Kraken.
This is your captain speaking.
And we'll work together to apprehend treacherous Tony before he does something dangerous. Put him up, treacherous Tony. You're coming with me.
All right. I give up. I won't do it again.
Listen to Sergeant Be Safe. He gives the best safety tips.
Hey, thank you very much. Take it from Captain Chaos and me. I'm Sergeant Be Safe. And that's your tip of the day to get you on your way.
Subscribe now.
And that is Sergeant Be Safe. I hope you guys enjoy those commercials. They're a lot of fun to make, and voiceovers. Yeah, you might recognize the main voice, yes, ladies and gentlemen. But there are other voices in there, and some of those voices are in the LEO community as well. So give them a shout out. I appreciate them for donating their time to come in and have fun and make these cartoons. Next generation of safety tips, which are very important. But I digress. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we got Matthew Thomas here, and we had a wonderful interview here. We discussed a lot of things. We discussed his experiences. We discussed his book here that you can find to see the website scrolling below. It's a great read. I promise you, I'm not lying to you. It's a really good read. It's a fun interview. But before we go, Matt, I appreciate you coming on the platform and donating your time here. I may have forgot to ask a question, or I may have jogged your memory on some topics or some things. Is there anything that you would like to share with us right now? The floor is yours.
Oh man, I just any of those young cats out there thinking they want to do this career, man, if you feel it in your heart, jump in. We need you. We need good people joining this profession, and any of you hard chargers out there that are already doing it, stick with it, man. It's only going to get better, and at the end of your career, you're going to look back and be glad that you stuck it out and you fought through. And other than that, just be good humans, man. Let's all be good humans to each other, and it'll make it a much better world.
And there you have it. Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate you, Nate, for coming on here. I really do. I know there's a billion other things you could have done, but you came on here. You shared a lot of wisdom. Yep, John, let me put this up here. Thank you both for continuing to fight the good fight and continuing to be strong leaders that this profession needs. Absolutely. And likewise to you, sir. Thank you. Thank you guys.
Thank you, John.
Yeah. And I look forward to watching you flourish. I know you got things going on higher up. I know you got people that you oversee. I appreciate everything that you have done. I appreciate things that you're doing. I told you, like I said, I'm starstruck. Doing great things out here, and engaging with the youth as well, and just administering recruiting with that, because our replacements are the ones that are going to be making a decision to move us forward. And I like stated that.
Absolutely. And thanks for having me, man. It's always my honor to talk to people, just and meet people, get the word out there, and just I think it's important for us to hear from all different angles, right? And so I love doing this kind of stuff. I love the interaction, and especially when guys like John, who served honorably and got to their retirement, and kudos to them for still staying involved and supporting, and it's an awesome platform, man, and you're doing good things. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, you guys met a star tonight. I thank you guys for tuning in. Another great interview. Yep, absolutely, Shayla. Thank you. We go live here on Black and Blue Weekly. We go live at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I got a special guest coming to the platform next week. I want to let you guys know who he is, but I don't want to give it away because I want you guys to be engaged and stay tuned. So make sure you guys tag, like, and share. Have a good time. Make sure you come with your questions ready. This is a platform where we try and humanize the badge. We try and show you different angles and different perspectives on law enforcement. We show you the good, the bad, the ugly, and the very mundane, how boring this job can be and how exciting this job can be at the same time. So if you're looking forward to getting into law enforcement, get your questions ready. This is your platform. If you're already in law enforcement and you're trying to find a reason to continue on going or find your way, this is your platform. If you're already out and still want to be engaged, this is your platform. And if you're just the daily citizen, the public that is just looking to see what we do, how we interact, how we talk, this too is your platform. Get your questions ready. This is Coach Clee, your motivational speaker, your empowerment coach, your author, and your favorite baker's favorite baker, saying 10-4, over and out.
Small crimes turn into bigger crimes if not dealt with. The broken windows theory.
Hey, Rob, you blind. I saw you break that window.
Meddling busybody. That window was like that when I arrived.
I'm calling the police.
Ooh.
Don't run. Sergeant, be safe. I saw Rob, you blind, try to break into that building.
Thank you, concerned citizen, for letting me know. We will definitely investigate. Minor crimes such as vandalism, loitering, curfew violations, public drunk, jaywalking, or driving with your headlight or taillight out. Minor crimes turn into bigger crimes if not reported.
Sergeant, be safe. I would have gotten away with this if it weren't for you and these nosy citizens.
Community policing begins with you. So if you don't want to see your neighborhood go down the tubes, if you see a crime, report it. Sergeant Be Safe here. That's your tip of the day. to get you on your way.
Subscribe now.